For my next project, I'm going to be designing a custom silk shirt for my friend Olive. Olive came over last night and she saw this silk shirt and was drawn to it. My friends Rosemary and Brianna have been finding silk shirts for me at thrift stores and giving them to me, and I felt like I needed to do something with it. So I'm excited to finally get to paint on one of them. Olive is from Uganda, so I'm going to be designing a shirt that's based on her personal and cultural identity. Because her name is Olive, I decided to include some olive branches in the design. But I also wanted to reference a Ugandan textile called bark cloth that's usually kind of an orange-brown in color. So I'm going to be integrating those two motifs in the final design. And I will be using hot wax, otherwise known as batik, which is in this little melting pot here, in order to create the outlines. I'm using an embroidery hoop to keep the fabric taut and to stop any wax from touching upon the other layers of the shirt. That means I have to do the shirt one section at a time in small spurts. I finished creating an outline for my friend Olive's shirt. I did this outline using hot wax in a style that's commonly known as batik. With the batik style, everything that is underneath the wax is going to stay that lighter color. As I looked at the design, I decided I really wanted to keep it simple and focused on the lines. So I'm going to simplify the color palette to just one color. This choice also goes with the fact that Olive shared with me which tribes she comes from, and I looked more at their textiles and noticed they often just have two colors. So I think that will look really nice and kind of fit with her cultural heritage in that way. My original plan was to dye inside and outside the lines, one leaf at a time. What actually happened though was that it instantly started creating a giant mess. I was a little disappointed because I was trying to paint in individual areas, but the silk wasn't taking the dye very easily, and with trying to paint on a sewn garment, everything was a little bit out of control. So I'm going to try a different strategy and dip dyeing the whole thing, then going back and making some areas darker. Right now, the shirt is in a dye pot in my bathtub, and I've put some of the silk dye in here along with water. My goal here is really just to get the shirt dark enough that the outlines will stand out on it, and I want to get it a little bit more uniform across. So right now you can see the outlines if you hold it up, but there are spots where it's still kind of light, so I might go back over them and darken them. I do feel as I'm touching it that some of the wax is rubbing off, which is a little bit problematic. So I don't really know how this is gonna go. Giving it my best shot. Because I'm not really happy with the even application of the dye, it just made a mess. The wax is coming out. There are some parts that are still quite light. I think I'm just going to leave it as a little bit of a tie-dye effect. So after this dries, I'm going to steam set the dyes to make them permanent, and then let it just be kind of this lighter color. And I'll use probably a shiny metallic outline rather than the wax outline to go over some areas and make the design pop more. Here's the state of the shirt. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit upset about how poorly this shirt took the dye. I had to take a break from it for a few days and come back to it. I think I have a strategy now though for what I want to do next. I'm going to put paper over top of this and iron out the wax, and then use a different kind of resist that actually dyes the fabric underneath and then comes out, and see if that helps create the darker lines and designs that I want. Here I'm quickly ironing out any waxy residue from the shirt using paper as a barrier. After ironing out the wax, I actually like the lines better than I expected. They are visible, and I kind of like the subtlety of the effect. I still think I'm going to do some darker designs over top, and it'll be interesting to see how any waxy residue could potentially impact how intense the lines show up. I use a product called Resistad, which can be mixed with different colors of dye to make your own thick paste for outlines. Now I'm finished applying the dark resist lines to the silk. I've used Resistad, which is a thick paste that I've mixed with dye in order to create the outlines. And right now I'm showing you the inside out of the shirt because this is closer to the actual color it will be in the end. If you look at it right side out where I applied the dye, it looks darker. Now I'm going to put it on my stove in a special steaming box, and the steam from the box is going to chemically bond the dyes with the silk. I wrap the silk in paper and put it on the steamer in my stove for 1 hour. After steaming my garment for 1 hour, the dye should now be set into the silk. Now, that doesn't mean this garment is ready to go. I need to let it sit for about 24 hours for the dyes to continue bonding with the silk, and then I'm going to rinse it out. When I rinse it out, some of the thickness that is currently in this resist paste will come out, and it's just going to have that nice dye color that you can currently see only on the inside. You can also see that it's a little bit crinkly from having to roll it up in the paper. And here's some of the paper that it was wrapped up in, so you can see that some of the waxy residue still needed to get out even after I had ironed it. There's still a faint trace of that original wax design that I created, but most of the design is going to be dominated by the darker color that I added later. Now I'm using detergent to rinse out the residue so that it's ready for Olive to wear. Now it's finally finished and she's ready to work it for her red carpet moment. Thanks so much, Olive, for giving me the opportunity to create this for you. I've learned so much upon the way, and it looks great on you.